if you want the biggest bang for your buck, the spot where if you strengthen that, it will have the most, call it ripple effect. It's in parent-child relationships. It's amazing how one thing can affect so many other things.
I love that you bring that up because I think that's one of the most powerful messages of recovery is that it just takes one person and that person can be you. And I think that removes this victim narrative, which is, I mean, I can understand the victim narrative very well. I showed up at 20 years old into those rooms and I'm looking at the 12 steps and one of them is that I'm going to make amends to people. And I'm like, excuse me, everyone owes me an apology. I was hurt. I'm the victim. But you know what? Thinking about things that way kept me suffering because I had no choices. I was waiting for somebody to apologize to me. I was waiting for somebody else was essentially my higher power. It wasn't God. It was another person. I had given them that power. And until they apologized to me, I had no choices. Until my parent changed, I was going to be stuck forever. And when I changed, I experienced exactly what you're discussing. My relationship with my parents changed completely. I was the one who was going to those meetings. And I think people realize that they have choices, that they get to make different decisions in their own lives that can shape so many different people around them. And in the example that you gave with this mother whose children are already out of the house and already married, think about being an adult child yourself. If you're frustrated with one of your parents, what it would feel like for your parent to seek help, to go to your course. It would never be too late. It would be incredible for a parent to do that for themselves. So one of the most significant ways I think growing up in an alcoholic home affected me in my early 20s was through what many refer to as toxic relationships. I would get into a relationship with someone. I would have a really negative experience because of toxic dynamics that were at play. I would leave the relationship and I would find myself in the exact same relationship with a different person only months later. And I had this really significant experience where this just kept happening over and over and over again. And my very dear friend just looked at me and he basically held up a mirror and he said, Laura, you tell me all the time what it is that you want for your life and you pursue people who give you the exact opposite. And the only person, and this was the empowering part, the only person who's going to be able to break that cycle is you. And my entire life changed that day. I decided that I was tired of my own behavior. I was going to change it because the only thing that felt harder than changing it was never getting to have what I wanted my whole life, never getting to have a beautiful marriage, never getting to love someone and be loved in return the way that we all deserve to be. And I often think about that time in my life and how hard it was to break out of that cycle. And I couldn't do it alone. I had so much support around me. I have what you write about in your book, A God of My Understanding. What is it that you want people to know about toxic relationships and addictive behaviors even, and how they can break those cycles in their own lives?
Yeah. I mean, you said something really powerful. I don't know if people who haven't lived it caught what you said because you said it quickly. And I don't know if people haven't lived it, they might not understand what you were saying. You mentioned that until you let go of you didn't use the word resentment, but, that's what you're describing. The people who you felt hurt by had become your higher power, right?
Yes.
You said something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Right.
absolutely. I was waiting for them to set me free. It was up to them.
Right.
My
So
fate
your life
was in
was
their
on
hands.
hold,
Yes.
basically. Your happiness was completely in their hands. Your sanity was in their
absolutely.
hands.
Yes.
Right. And you had to realize that you had given them that power, which doesn't justify their behaviors toward you. It can be that their behaviors toward you were absolutely wrong, and that they are morally accountable for the wrong they did. But that's a separate issue from the fact that you had given them that power of basically determining whether or not you get to be happy, whether or not you feel your life has value, whether you value yourself, and you had to take that power back from them.
Yes.
So, you talk about toxic relationships. I try to be delicate when I speak about spiritual topics because I know that it's a struggle for a lot of people. And there are many reasons why people struggle with spirituality. One reason, not the only reason, but one reason is because of kind of the stuff we're talking about here, where your, that trust muscle has been torn, blown out at an early age. And then, when you get burnt out from trust, then it becomes very hard to have that trust in a relationship with God. But I'm going to say something, I'm going to try to be delicate about it, but if you really, really want to analyze what is at the root of every toxic relationship, it is exactly what you were saying. It is expecting from another human being that which only God can give you.
Mm.
And I don't know of any way to stop that vicious cycle until you go to the real God and say, my worth, my validity as a being, my existence does not require a human being's approval. I am pre-validated because of the fact that I'm a child of God.
I love that. And I can see why you would be afraid to say it in that way, because, it's so difficult to break through the very valid resistance that I think many people have to religion, to faith, to spirituality, because of the experiences that they've had. But I personally experienced what you're describing. I could not move past these resentments, which you talk about resentments as a re-editing of the past, like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I could not get past these resentments that were plaguing my life until I stopped expecting other people to give me the things that God is there to give me. And to describe that to another person who is equally allergic to that word as I was is really hard to do. And I've sort of decided, through this podcast recently, that, I think my only option is really to talk about it, because it is true for me.
Hey, this is Shais Taub. You were just watching a clip from this class. If you want to get the full context, the full class that this clip that you just watched was from, you watch right here. Click right here. Here.